So thank you for taking the time to be here. My name's Andrew Knightlick. I run the Center for Executive Coaching. I founded it. I also have a full coaching practice. I'm not going to go through my bio. You read that when you registered for the webinar, and so I won't take your time with that. Today we're going to talk about the evolution of the executive coaching market and the implication for coaches. This is designed largely for individuals who are relatively new to coaching, thinking about getting into coaching, but it also has wide implications for those of you who are more seasoned coaches. So either way, I hope to share some insights with you. This particular presentation came because I was having dinner with a couple of seasoned coaches, and we were just talking about changes we've seen in the market and what it's meant for our coaching practices. And so it turned into this presentation. And so I hope you get value out of it. The agenda is as follows. I'm going to take you through 6 models. I don't know so much that I call them models, but more coaching used to be, right? As we were sitting around the table talking about our coaching practice, we'd say, you know, a decade, 2 decades ago, coaching used to be this way, and now it's changed, right? So I'll take you through 6 of those coaching used to be. And then I want to talk about 3 ways the market has gotten broader, 3 ways the market's gotten more competitive, and that leads to 2 models that you see in the market today. One that many coaches have that is causing them to struggle, and one that a few coaches have that is causing them to be successful. So I want to make that distinction. From there, I'm going to give you a pop quiz to see where you stand in terms of that model for the market today. I want to give you one coaching methodology. One of the takeaways from today's presentation, quite frankly, is that to succeed in today's market, you can't just sit with the client and ask endless open-ended questions. Okay, that's not enough. You have to have substance as a coach. You have to you have to have some structured conversations that give your client a fast, effective path to insights and results, or they are not going to tolerate you for long. And to do that, it helps to have a coaching methodology. I want to give you a little tiny taste of what a coaching methodology looks like that's had some good results for me and for members of the Center for Executive Coaching and for my clients. Next, move into what it means to market yourself as a coach, given how the market has evolved, and then take any questions that you have. Of course, ask questions along the way. I can't promise that I'll be able to answer them depending on the flow of the conversation, but certainly I'll stay around as long as I can to answer any questions you have. And you have my email. I'll give it to you again at the end of this presentation if you want to reach me directly. Okay, so that's the agenda. The presentation won't take terribly long, and so I thank you again for taking the time to be on this. And my goal is that it gives you some value and maybe some insights about where to take your practice if you're already practicing, if you're thinking about adding coaching to what you're already doing or making it a next step in your career. I hope it gives you some ideas about what you need to do to be successful. It's a wonderful field to get into, but the market's changing, and so I want to make sure you're prepared. So let's talk about the former market and 6 models. And again, you might change this to coaching used to be. Okay, so here's 6 things that I think are less true of coaching, but still true. You still see this, and I'd love to get your perspective on this. So number 1, when coaching first came around, this is what you'd see. Should I fire somebody or not? And often a coach was brought in as the tactic of last resort. In other words, a company would say, Coach, come on in and see if you can work with this employee for a little bit, a month, 2 months, 3 months, and see whether or not we can get this employee in shape so we can make a decision about whether or not to keep this employee or fire this employee. So coaching was the tactic of last resort. And you're seeing this go away. I'll explain why shortly. But now whenever a company says to me, Andrew, would you coach this person? We're not sure if we should keep them. I say no. And I say no because I'd rather have the company invest this money in coaching high potential talent or their executive team to help them get better. And unlike in the past, now companies are much more open to that conversation. They realize that coaching gets significant returns as a standard leadership development tool. Okay, so that's number one, to fire or not to fire. Coaching started that way, and you don't see it as much anymore, and I won't accept assignments like this anymore, because why would I want to position myself that way in a company? I want to position myself as the hero working with the best talent, not somebody working with talent that's ready to go. Okay, does that make sense? If there's any questions or comments, let me know. So again, my advice to you, if you're in this particular market, is think of ways to position yourself as a coach who's working with the winners, not as a coach who's working with those who are probably not going to make it anyway. The second coaching used to be, or old model, I'd say, is the life coaching model. And this is not in any way to put down life coaches. Life coaching has wonderful content. Most of the coach training programs that are out there are life coach training programs. In fact, my understanding of the International Coach Federation is that it was started by people with the life coaching background. However, as I was sitting around the table with some very successful coaches, executive coaches, business coaches, leadership coaches, what we have discovered is that the market has shifted. And people who come from a life coaching background are simply not succeeding in large organizations unless they make a shift to understand the language of business and how to relate to executives. So for instance, within the Center for Executive Coaching, we have a member who's been very successful. I shared her testimonial on the last webinar, so I won't do it here. But she had a brand of yoga that she would do, and a very much a life coaching model. And we worked together to give her some toolkits focused on executive coaching and a language focused on talking to executives and addressing executives in their language and their world so that she could shift what she does. And now she works with high-level executives in a variety of companies for years to help them with overwhelm, with relating better with employees, employee engagement, overcoming conflict. She does stuff that MBAs out of the top business schools could never do, but she's learned how to position it in a language that works for executives. So she doesn't do what would be called life coaching anymore. She's adapted. And so the old life coaching model is now outdated. That's how it started, but now we're seeing a lot more organizational development, a lot more folks coming who can speak the language of business. To give another example, I know an extremely successful coach in Silicon Valley. She works with technology CEOs. And for a long time, all she did was what you might call transformational coaching, right? Whatever that is. So she would focus on the transformational technologies. And she hit a roadblock. She hit a wall with her coaching. And now she also coaches executives in the language of strategy, succession planning, and areas like that. That doesn't mean she's an expert there, but now she's grounded in the conversations of strategy, succession planning, influence, engaging and mobilizing employees. So even though she comes from this background of transformation, ontology, language like that, she has learned how to engage executives in the language that they speak. Okay, so we're seeing this life coaching model have to evolve for those who want to move into the executive coaching world, because executive clients simply are not tolerating the jargon and what they perceive to be the fluffiness of the life coaching model. And you're seeing a lot of coach training schools struggle to keep up if they're claiming to train people who can succeed in that market. Okay, so that's used to be number two. Number three, in the old days, such as they were, coaches were known as corporate shrinks or CEO shrinks, and you'd have a lot of psychiatrists or psychotherapists who would come in and work with CEOs. And while you may still see that, that's shifted now. Coaching has come into its own as a profession distinct from psychotherapy. Now, you still have many psychologists, psychotherapists, psychiatrists who are moving into coaching, but they're doing it now with an understanding of the distinctions between the therapy model and the coaching model. And that's a really good thing for the profession. In fact, many psychiatrists, many psychologists are getting out of those areas just because they're sick of the reimbursement and the insurance, and they see the potential of the executive coaching model, which comes more from a health model than a disease state model. Okay, and so that's the third thing that you're seeing. There was a time when it was called, I've hired a corporate shrink, and you don't see that as much anymore. Now coaches are accepted as coaching. It's its own profession, and that's a terrific thing. You don't see that psychotherapy model. Now, having said that, the other good thing is that many CEOs often do have psychotherapists, right? We do see high stress in positions of power. We see drug abuse, alcoholism, depression. We see divorce, and many coaches are skilled in knowing when to refer a client to a skilled therapist. We know the boundaries between coaching and the need for clinical intervention. So we're seeing some nice boundaries between the two. Okay, so that's the third used to be, the third evolution that we're seeing that I think is really healthy for the market. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So number 4. One trend that is going away, or that is shifting in an important way, you'll see a lot, you still see this, but it's not working as well anymore, is that if an executive retired or was laid off, they would hang a shingle that says, I'm a coach. You'd see the same thing a while ago where people who were laid off would say, I'm a consultant. And this used to work, but it doesn't work anymore because of organizations like the International Coach Federation and their designations, and because we're developing a language as coaches with specific coaching conversations, with specific competencies, so that now when companies hire a coach, they expect a specific process, a specific language, a specific approach. And so this is very interesting because now, even though an executive might have terrific skills to work with other executives and mentor them and advise them, there's now growing recognition that if they want to call themselves coaches, they have to develop a skill set in order to round out that label as coach. And so that's really interesting as well. Okay, so that's a fourth, I think, used to be. This one surprises me, but I get calls from executives who are saying, I've been doing this coaching thing for a long time, and now it works fine within my network. However, when I go to companies or companies call me, they're asking me, what is my coach training? And that's actually a surprise to me, but fairly interesting. So we're seeing that that as well. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 5, this is also in some ways a used to be. Although you still see it, but I think it's getting more and more resistance in the market. And this is what I'm going to call fad or jargon-based coaching. And this is one of the things that I think hurts our field. Okay, and these are coaches who have some sort of X-based coaching where X is some sort of fad or jargon that really means nothing. And it might involve any of these names: brain, neuro, emotive, intelligence, psychological, linguistic, positive, bio, cognitive, performance, impact, results, ROI, all that stuff. I mean, it's really just it's almost like they go to some sort of jargon machine on the internet and try to find that next trademarkable idea. I mean, at the end of the day, what we need to focus on is hard-hitting solutions for our clients based on the most pressing problems that they have, right? Every time we push a methodology or a jargon onto our clients, you can guarantee that they're short-lived and eventually they're going to be made fun of in the market. Okay, so what we're moving away from is, here's my single-minded fad-based solution, and we're moving into, as you'll see soon, I'm setting myself up to be a trusted advisor and solution provider with a range of solutions to your most pressing problems. We're setting ourselves up, the successful coaches are, to take the highest strategic ground, not to label ourselves or pigeonhole ourselves as pushing a particular fad or jargon-based methodology, but rather to say, as most of the highest level professionals do, you know, my goal, we don't say this out loud, but our goal is ultimately to be a solution provider, a trusted advisor. So that's number 5 in terms of the used to be. So as we were sitting around at dinner, we were sort of we played a game where we tried to list as many of these fad-based coaching programs that are out there, as opposed to just being a solid substance-based solution provider. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. The final used to be that I think is the most exciting for all of us, in addition to the first one about to fire or not to fire coaching, is that a long time ago, coaching was largely isolated amongst the biggest companies in the world. And it's not anymore. As you'll see in a minute, it's now become wide open to everyone from sole proprietors, you know, single person entrepreneurs, people in career transition who pay out of pocket, to small to mid-sized companies around the world. It used to be largely isolated to the senior ranks, and now you see group coaching at all levels of companies. So that's really exciting too. That's a nice trend. So those are the 6 used to be's that I wanted to report to you. Any comments or questions on those before we move forward into some of the trends that we're seeing? Again, that's the past. I want to move into where we're heading. Again, I hope you're finding this useful. I don't think I'm saying anything that you haven't recognized, but this is a just a report of a fun dinner I had with some really successful coaches. Okay, good summary. All right, good. Fits with my experience. Hired my first coach 20 years ago. Okay, good. So we have someone who is a coach, hired a first coach. Good. Yeah, and as one of you says, some of these may still work for some coaches. That's right. I'm not claiming that these are like Neanderthals where you can't find any of them anymore. I'm just observing that some of these are, we're seeing more and more resistance to these as in the market as we talk to our clients about what they're looking for in a coach, what they're seeing. Okay, so let's continue. I want to take you to 3 ways that the market has gotten broader. Okay, give me just a second to remove some questions. Okay, great. So there's 3 ways the market has gotten broader. And one of you is asking, does this apply to a particular country? Yes, all countries I'm seeing this, although of course different countries are in different stages of growth as regards coaching. So 3 ways that coaching has gotten broader. One, first of all, there have been studies now about the effectiveness of coaching, right? You can go to the ICF website, you can Google different results of coaching, but in general, different studies have shown that $1 invested in good coaching, right? I'm talking about good coaching, generally results in a return on investment of $4 to $8 return on investment, right? Sometimes self-reported. There are different methodologies when you read these studies, but you can get pretty good return on investment from coaching. And so it's become a proven leadership development tool, which will be part 2. But because coaching has been proven, and it makes sense, right? Why wouldn't it make sense that if you, for instance, have a training where we know that 85% of what you learn in a training is lost after 2 weeks, right? There's been research to prove that. So if you support the training with coaching, it's been documented that you can then reinforce that training and get a return or impact of 4 times retention, right? That makes absolute common sense, and studies have now backed it up. Similarly, studies of just executive coaching show all sorts of improvements in relationships up, down, and across the organization. The people receiving the coaching feel more loyal to the organization, and so forth. Okay? And so we know that. On top of that, we know that coaching is now accepted as a standard leadership development tool in many organizations. And those of you asking for citations, if you go to the International Coach Federation website, they have all sorts of documentation for you. Okay, so what's happening is that the market's getting broader. There's more and more acceptance of coaching. And by coaching here, I mean good coaching. Okay, now there's a question here. Are there any coaching certification programs in particular that companies are asking for now? And the answer here is not very clear. The ICF has done a study that shows that coaches with the ICF designations, right, which you can get through the Center for Executive Coaching, are paid more. What my members report, because we only got our ICF accreditation, I said I would never get it. I don't think anyone needs it, but if anyone's ever turned down for an assignment because you don't have an ICF designation, tell me and I'll apply. This happened about 5 years ago. And sure enough, somebody who came out of Deloitte, who was in the program, got turned down for a job coaching gig with the Department of Defense because he did not have his ICF designation. So that's why we applied. And so what we're seeing in the United States is that certainly federal government is asking for the ICF designation. In Canada, we're seeing a lot of government and large companies ask for ICF designations. And in the UK, we're seeing more and more folks ask for the ICF designations. Okay? The third thing that we're seeing that for me is the most exciting and that has been the most exciting for my coaching practice and the coaching practice of many members that we train at the Center for Executive Coaching is that there's many more openings for coaching and for coaches, and including many more openings where people aren't asking for ICF designations but do want to see that coaches are trained well. So there's openings in small businesses, there's openings around the world, there's openings up, down, and throughout organizations. So again, whereas it used to be that you'd only see coaches in the C-suite, CEO, COO, CFO, now you see people being coached at all levels, high performance managers, middle managers, vice presidents. You see group coaching. You see online virtual coaching. You see people being coached when they're in transition. You see people paying out of their own pocket for coaching. You see business coaching, coaching entrepreneurs. There's all sorts of openings. And you can go to our webinar and see a recent webinar about different coaching niches where I talk about 25 different niches that we're seeing growing. So there's many more opportunities than ever before for coaches. And on top of that, there's many more opportunities for coaches to do more than coaching, right? You can speak, write, train, facilitate, lead seminars. And so coaching is a very wonderful profession, right? I'm leading this webinar from my home office. I make a terrific income. I have clients from all around the world. I see my kids every day, every weekend, and have a wonderful lifestyle. And that's one of the things that draws people to coaching because of this broader market. However, at the same time that it's become broader, the market's also become more competitive. And that's what leads to some implications as the market evolves. Specifically, there's more coaches, right? If you look at just the International Coach Federation and the growth in their membership, there is growth. More people are getting into coaching. I don't believe it's saturated in any sense at all. I think there's huge opportunity. If you look at the number of coaches versus the number of consultants out there, there's still many fewer coaches than consultants. There's great opportunity. And there's great opportunity to add coaching to what you might already be doing as a professional in other areas, like consulting, accounting, law, management, interim management, facilitation, training, speaking, writing, training, pastoral care, etc. At the same time, there are professional bodies and designations, and that just means that the standards are getting higher, right? Whether you need one or not, the market will tell you, but the fact is that they're out there. Why do I have Superman, Captain America, and the X-Men showing here? Because again, nobody's quite sure. A lot of this is coaches saying, hey, I have my PCC or my MCC or my thing from this or that, right? But the market will tell you. It certainly does not hurt to have a designation, and I know the ICF has done a study that coaches who have an ICF designation tend to get paid more. Okay, but the fact that there are professional bodies and designations indicates that the profession is maturing. There are standards now. There are people who are talking about coaching as a profession and standing up for it. And third, and this is the thing that matters most, right? The Center for Executive Coaching is market-driven. I am market-driven. I know for a fact, because I'm in the market all the time with highly demanding clients, that expectations are getting more and more stringent out there. They are higher and higher among clients than ever before. So if you're going to get into coaching, you need to be really good. You have to have substance. You can't come from the used to be perspective. That's the main change I want to point out, because there are more coaches, even though there's more openings. There are professional bodies now. And clients are rolling their eyes at coaches who are walking in just asking endless open-ended questions as if the client really does know the answers all the time. Okay? So it's really, really important that if you're going to get into this field, that you meet those high expectations. So what we're seeing are two models in the market today. And I want to take you through these two in the hopes that you are able to be the second model. The first model, which I would say is about 85 to 90% of coaches, is what I'm going to call the treadmill by the hour model. This is a nasty model, right? It may be the model you have to start with, but you definitely want to evolve out of this model. This is the model where you're chasing clients for maybe 5 or 6 hours or a package of 10 hours, and then you don't see that client again. You're sort of a one and done coach. Maybe you get into the HR department of a company and they say, here, go coach this person for 10 hours, and you coach them for 10 hours, and that's it, you're done. In some ways, it can take you longer to sell an engagement than it does to deliver an engagement. So you're always on this treadmill. You're always charging by the hour. It's called the hourly rate trap. And so to make a living, a good living, it feels like you have to have lots of small clients that you're always replacing. There are some business coaching franchises where it feels like this. You're always going after these tiny businesses that really can't afford you. You're always replacing them. They're never really growing. You're always chasing after them. So if you imagine a coach with a headset on, always talking to clients, it's like this assembly line factory model. This is not the way you want to be as a coach. Okay? And yet, 80% of coaches out there are like this. I imagine many life coaches are like this. But if you're an executive coach or a leadership coach, this is not the model you want. And if you're following the old models of coaching, unfortunately, this is the model you may end up in. Okay? If there are any questions, let me know about this. But this is pretty much for those of you considering getting into coaching. I want to be real clear about this, because you're not going to learn this at many schools, because they'll teach you the core competencies of coaching, and none of the core competencies talk about the business model. All right? You can evolve to the second model. And this is the second model. The second model is where you may not even call yourself a coach, although you do coaching. The second model is the trusted advisor or solution provider model. Here, you're forming a long-term relationship with a client based on your substance, not based on being a generic or commodity coach who sells by the hour. You're solving the most pressing problems your client has as a professional. You're forming long-term relationships. You're addressing a range of issues that an executive manager or team has, and you might deliver solutions in a variety of ways, right? Coaching is just one of many delivery mechanisms. You could also be a facilitator, a trainer, You might be a mediator if there's a conflict. You might start a leadership academy or help the client start one. You might start a leadership circle. You might form other creative formats as needed. And you can also build your credibility in other ways. You know, a speaker, writing articles, research, interviews, videos, audios, information products, webinars, etc. So it's a whole different model. It's the professional model. You're a trusted advisor. Okay? So that's an important thing to give some thought to. All right, I really like this second model. You'll end up having fewer clients. You make more money per client, but you're not chasing clients all the time. All right? So again, it depends on you. Now, having said that, well, let me take you to this. Hold on a minute. So if you look at a bell curve, what the treadmill coaches have on the bell curve, right? You know how a bell curve works, right? The top of the bell curve that you see here is the average, right? Where most of the people are, and the right are is just the very few. The trusted advisor solution coaches, they have the long-term relationships with clients. At the same time, they can be developing products, they can be speaking, they can be making money while they're doing other things. The treadmill coaches don't have time to do that. They're in the hourly rate trap. They're always struggling to get new short-term clients. Okay, by shifting over to the right, you have the opportunity to be offering products, licensing material, doing all sorts of things that get you leverage through either other people or other products. Okay, so it's very nice. You're also charging the highest possible fees. Why? Because if you have books, if you have seminars, if you have webinars, you're basically charging more for more access to you. Okay? A client who wants to work one-on-one with you is going to pay top dollar to do so. Because if they don't want to pay top dollar, they can buy a book. They can come to a seminar with lots of other people. They can do group coaching. So it's a very nice model. It's, to me, much more fulfilling than constantly chasing clients and being on that treadmill. So the question is, how do you do that? How do you get to the trusted advisor model? I'm going to give you a pop quiz in just a second to see if you're ready to get there or what it takes to get there. In fact, let me do that now. And then again, I'll take questions shortly. So here's a pop quiz for the market today. If you want to be that trusted advisor, what you have to do is be ready to keep clients for a long time. And so when clients present a problem to you, you need to be ready to have a solution for them. So here's a pop quiz. I'm going to ask you some questions as if I were a client. And my question for you is, would you be ready with a coaching methodology, not just to ask some open-ended questions for a session or two, but to really go deep with your client over a 6-month engagement to have massive impact with them, to really solve their problem. So if the client says, this should say, my people are not doing what I need them to do, would you have a solution to help them engage and mobilize their people for which you could charge mid-5 figures over a 6-month span so that they could build a high-performing team and really engage and mobilize their people? Similarly, if the client then says, my career's hit a plateau, can you help me get to the next level? Could you do more than just 5 sessions with them? Right? How do you do that? You need a methodology. And what happens is if you can answer these questions, clients have plenty of problems. You can grow with them so that you're keeping them for at least 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. As we were sitting around the table discussing how coaching has evolved and what makes successful coaches today, all of us we're talking about how long we keep our average clients. and how long the most successful coaches we know are keeping their average clients, and it's a long time. And that's one of the secrets to being on the right side of that bell curve, is having enough solutions so that when a client has a problem, we're ready with a substantial solution to help them. So if someone says we need a strategy, but either no one can agree on what strategy means, or we have a strategy but it's not getting done, we have a methodology to coach the client and maybe shift to some group facilitation to help them. Or if they then say, look, my board, it's just not helping our organization. Can you help develop the board with me? Or if they say, I'm overwhelmed. I'm just so stressed and overwhelmed. Can you help me get control of my time? Right, so a question here from one of you is, do the best coaches suggest solutions or identify and pin down the problem better? Great question. What I'm going to show you in a minute is a coaching framework or methodology. And you know, you really want to ask the client what they want. That's fundamental, right? If you ask some of the coaching associations, some of them will say your job as a coach is just to ask powerful questions. But what we found is that clients hire you for your observations and insights. What we teach at the Center for Executive Coaching is a combination. You want to ask great questions, focused questions, so that the client doesn't roll his or her eyes at you for asking dumb questions that go nowhere and feel like, you know, cliche therapy, but that have the client say, wow, great question, I need to think about that. And then at the end, when you've exhausted the client's questioning and answers, you can say, do you mind if I share something I noticed, an insight? And that's how you bring value. If you just jump in and say, let me tell you the answer, the client doesn't want to hear it, right? They're not ready to hear that. They're like a steam boiler that's full of steam. But if you let them vent that steam through great questions and inquiry, they're going to have some terrific insights. At the same time, you have every right to share your insight as well. So here's some others. I'm overwhelmed. I have a conflict. That's one of the biggest things that executives struggle with. Would you be ready to help them resolve that conflict with a methodology? I need to improve my leadership presence. You know, that could be so that I can move up to the next level. I've worked with a number of clients to help them move up from that senior vice president to C-level level, and there's a ton of areas they need to work on. Communication being one of them, influence, time management, engaging employees, managing up. That's easily 6 months to 9 months. I need to change the culture. That can be an 18-month engagement, but you need a methodology to do it. I'm in a new role and need to succeed during the first 90 days. So that's a 3-month project that can lead to further executive coaching. I need to strengthen my power base. I need to lead a change initiative. You know, a good change initiative can be a year. I need to turn around a dysfunctional team. I just got feedback about a behavioral blind spot I need to correct. That can be 6 months to a year to change a behavior and make it habitual. I need to improve leadership among my middle management team. Again, that could be an incredible engagement, not just a couple sessions. If they want quicker solutions, what if they want quicker solutions, one of you is asking? Well, great question. We can start them on that path, but you know, if someone wants to change a behavioral blind spot, we have to be honest with them about what it will take. Right? Research shows that it's not a matter of just putting someone under hypnosis for 15 minutes and expecting them to change their behavior. We have to be open and honest about what it takes to actually make change happen. And the fact of the matter is, it can take a while to change a habit. I need to get better at working across silos. There's an example to that question, right? General Motors every year has hundreds of thousands to millions of recalls. And every year, there's a new report that says they have a dysfunctional culture because they have a culture that does not work well across silos. There's no quick solution for that, right? And so if hypothetically they were open to coaching about that, it would take some time to change it. If you've read the book, The Power of Habit, fantastic book that every coach should read, it talks about how long it changes to change a habit at the individual level. It gives case studies of the company Alcoa and Paul O'Neill and how he transformed that company by focusing on the key habit of safety and the behaviors required to turn it into a safety culture, as well as Starbucks and what they've done when Schwartz came back as the leader to change the training there. It takes a lot of time to make change. Anyway, the question here is, are you ready? Would you be ready as a coach to have substantial conversations to help your clients improve their leadership, to make change, to have impact, real impact with them while keeping them for the long term? That's what the successful coaches are doing. All right? So that's my challenge to you. If you're going to get into coaching, let's be sure that you can handle that. At the same time, on the marketing side, what the successful coaches are doing is they're there. They're ready to say with certainty the following. And I'll ask you this. Let's do this test together. Can you say with certainty, if you're already coaching, that the people in your target market think of you first when they have a problem that fits your expertise? Do they think of you first? Are you the go-to expert? Number two, would your clients say, if I interviewed your clients for you and said, do you get a return on investment worth 5 to 10 times your fees when they work with you? Would they say yes? Can we prove it? Can we validate that? Number three, does your target market see you as a recognized expert with knowledge about how to solve key problems that they care about? Right? A lot of coaches just go out there and say, I'm a leadership coach. But that's not how leaders in a target market, in an industry or a function, wake up in the morning and say that's their key problem, right? I don't wake up in the morning and say, oh no, I am a bad leader. I better look on Google and find some coach's leadership website. That's not how it works. We have to understand how marketing works in order to be seen as a recognized expert, someone that is the go-to professional. It's really important, and many coaches fail in this regard. And again, can you say with certainty that your target market is aware of your methodology, that you have a clear, efficient, and effective methodology to address some of their most pressing leadership and organizational challenges? Again, that's what's required in the market today. If you're not able to say those things, you have to work on that. Okay? And finally, you would know that these are true. Here's one indicator. If you're frequently invited to speak or write or be interviewed about issues of concern to your target market, right? If that happens, that's a great sign. So there's some pop quizzes, all right, that will give you an indication of whether you're successful, whether you're at the forefront, whether you're to the right of that bell curve or not. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I hope this works. It's a tiny, tiny sliver of a coaching methodology. So I'm not sure if it's going to do the job or not, but I'm going to give it a shot. It's just something we do to coach a client on influence. And to make it real, I'm actually going to use an example of a recent client. I was called to work with one of the major professional sporting leagues in the United States. And so I'm just going to, and to talk about influence, specifically influencing some of the professional athletes to be more professional. Okay? And so how would we coach a member of the team, in administration on the team, to coach one of the professional athletes to be more professional? Right? That was the coaching assignment. How would we do that? How would we coach them to do that? So I'm going to take you through that methodology, right? I mean, this stuff works. It has impact. It's used in some major organizations. So, you know, a coach without this is going to be winging it, is going to be asking open-ended questions. If you have a methodology, though, you're ready to go. You have a structured approach so that anytime you go to a client, you're ready. Okay? So, for instance, here's what you do. First thing I do with the client is I want to give them a little overview, just a little reading. Now, these are just a few guidelines, right? I just say, look, you know we're working on this, so here's a little bit of homework. Read this before we meet. And so here's some. I mean, there's a bunch of them in the program, but again, I just want to give you a little sliver. By the way, this fits under a whole module we have on influence, right? There's influence with other people, getting an idea accepted in an organization, influence in terms of building relationships and power base. So there's a ton of things. So again, I apologize. This is if you think of a pie under the umbrella of influence, this is a sliver of a sliver of a sliver. But I start with some guidelines, right? You're either influencing, being influenced, not in the game. We have this model of, you know, true influence. You have to balance your ego, relationships, or results, right? If you push too hard on results, you're forcing. You're coming across as a jerk. If you push too hard on relationships, you're weak, you're avoiding, you're passive, you're conflict avoiding. It's like with fight or flight, you're fleeing. And so you're not going to get results. And ironically, you hurt relationships too. If you push too hard on ego, you hurt everything. You have to have some ego. Every executive does. You get the idea. And most importantly, people do things for their reasons. You got to find those reasons and take 100% responsibility for your impact. There's a bunch of stuff. We go through it. I don't have time, but I just want to get a grounding so that at least they understand some principles of what influence means. I give them just some pointers. And if they're overwhelmed, do I do this? No. Right? You don't want to give people too much homework, but it takes about 2 minutes just to talk about this stuff if they're open to it. If they're not open to it, if they don't like reading, I'm not going to do too much of this, right? You want to adapt to your client. Okay? The overall process looks like this. Again, I don't give this to the client. This is for you. Okay? The way I teach coaches with this is we actually have worksheets. So I'm showing you this in a different form. But, the process when I'm working with these folks is we're going to choose a very clear goal. We're going to take some time to understand the other person and situation. We're going to choose the right influence appeal. We're going to take some time to structure the influence approach. We're going to plan for the worst. We're going to rehearse, and then they're going to go out there and make it happen. And it's really amazing. So we're going to choose a goal first. Okay, so let's say it's this player we want to be more professional. We take some time to say, what's your real goal? Right? Being more professional makes no sense. If you go to a professional athlete and say, I want you to be more professional, they're going to say, that makes no sense. I am professional. Right? So we have to be, what does that mean, professional? In what situation? So here, for instance, you see a different example. Say somebody wants someone to be more involved in a project. You can't say, I want you more involved. They say, that's ridiculous. I am involved. So here, the specific example is, I want you to show up on time for these meetings 3 times per week, every meeting starting Monday. Maybe I also want you to talk positively about the project to your team once per week, right? You get the idea. I'm not going to take too much time here. All I know is that when I work with clients, it can take a half hour just to get them specific on the goal they want. Too many executives just go into meetings not even clear on the goal. They just have energy, like they're angry, they're frustrated. And so if they went into the meeting without any coaching, they would blow the meeting, because they'd just be angry or frustrated or upset. And so without the coaching, they're already on the wrong track because they don't have a goal. So we take plenty of time to make sure the goal is specific, clear, videotapable. So in the terms of working with this professional athlete, we would typically pick one situation of professionalism. Like when you meet with the business office, I want you to be dressed with a business jacket on. I want you to stay calm and collected. And I want you to not use any swear words. Okay, just something like that. And I want you to show up on time, right? Those might have been some of the goals that we had. Okay, and we did it specifically for this one meeting coming up. Okay, we didn't set too broad a goal. Next, Next, we want to understand the person and situation. So for this professional athlete, what are some things that will motivate them? What facts can you give that will encourage them, that matter to them? What reasons that will encourage them to want to agree to your goal? What is it that matters to this player about their reputation, about what will happen if they do swear? How will they look if they do come late? I mean, this is obvious stuff, but what we do is we put up a flip chart, or we just start writing on a pad all of these things. What are things that they want and that you control? Like maybe this person can spend more time with the player, mentoring them, or maybe the player wants to learn more about finance or life after sports. And so this player can spend this administrator can spend more time teaching them about other career opportunities after their playing days are over. Maybe this individual, the player, wants to learn more about endorsement or sponsorship opportunities and how to structure them. So this person can make that available if this person complies with that. So we go through a lot of things saying, what drives this person? What do they want? Maybe this person, I don't know, has an interest in meeting a particular other celebrity, and you can make that happen. So we go through that. What shouldn't you bring up? What would turn this person off? What else can you do to get them what you want and what they want? Okay, so we spend a lot of time there. Again, as you hear this, you're saying, oh, that makes sense. This is obvious. But by having it in a structured format as a coach, you're not going to waste time, and they're going to be seeing you as an efficient, effective coach, somebody who's coming prepared, who knows their stuff, who's not asking random questions like, how do you think you can achieve your goal? You're going to have structured questions that gets this done. All right. One of you saying this is a fire hose of slides. It is. What I want to do is just show you the importance of having substance, right? My goal here is not to teach you how to coach people on influence. My goal here is to show you the importance of having a methodology. And this is like 1% of 1% of a methodology. What I'm trying to show you is that most coaches just wing it now. They're trying to like be present and wing it and hope that good things happen, and that's not cutting it in the market. You actually have to be prepared for the top situations that leaders face, and one of them is influence. Next, what I work with these individuals who are trying to influence the players, and again, that's just one situation, is choosing an appeal. It turns out that there are different ways to influence people in different situations. Some situations call for working with the left brain, like logic. The left brain is all logical. What are facts, logic, reasons? That works really well if you're an expert. You know, if you have doctors use it, lawyers, consultants. Sometimes we want to use the gut. The gut is great when we negotiate or when we want to assert, when we want people just to do it, when we want compliance. Sometimes we use the heart. That's when we share, we listen, we involve, when we want them committed. Sometimes we want to use the spirit or the soul. That's when we use common ground or values or beliefs. You know, so here, professionalism, we could share and say, look, I was a basketball player too, or a football player or a baseball player. You know, we both come from the same place. I remember what it was like to be in your shoes. Now I'm retired, but I remember how hard it was. Please, when you go to this meeting, can you do this for me? Can I count on you to show these behaviors? I know it's hard. I know you don't want to do this, but can you do it for me? That would be an example. Vision is when you're painting a really compelling picture of the future. That's inspiring and exciting. You could say, imagine that you do this and you become the consummate professional on this team. Imagine what's possible for you. Imagine you on TV, Nike endorsing you. Imagine all that happens. Something like that. The fact is, there's different ways to influence in different situations. Most executives, in this case athletes, don't even know it. They're one-trick ponies, so we can coach people through it. This would never come up if, as a coach, we were just winging it, as many coaches do. And so here we could experiment with this with our client in an efficient, effective way. There's huge value here. As one of you says, you know, it helps to have an assessment tool. Yeah. If you have an assessment tool as a coach, that can be helpful. Let me just go through the rest of the process. Next, we structure the approach, right? We say, so given all that we've done, how would you open this influence with this player or, you know, with this executive if it's a, you know, a different non-athletic situation? What objections might the person raise? How will you respond? What else will come up? So we play with that a little bit to come up with an approach. Then we prepare for the worst. You know, what's going to go wrong here? How will the person maybe get upset that you're trying to influence, your client's trying to influence? What might you need to get out of the way now so that you don't say those things in the actual meeting? I love role-playing that. Just say everything, every swear word, yell, scream, everything you want to say now. What about you? How will you get upset? What do you have to do now to prepare for things the other person might say so that you don't overreact in the meeting? And what are you going to do if you have to get out of the meeting and excuse yourself? Let's prepare for that. If things get emotional, let's get ready now so you don't be in the meeting and let it spiral out of control. And now let's rehearse. And so we have a whole methodology to rehearse with the client. And so here we have a very tiny little coaching methodology that can help a client become much more practiced at influence. You know, if you do this with someone who wants to develop leadership presence once a week with different leadership situations or influence situations, you can change their life and career. And this is just a tiny methodology. We have dozens of these in the Center for Executive Coaching. It's the kind of thing you need to be a top-level coach because it gives you substance. Okay, it's different than just trying to sit around and figure out the questions to ask clients, which is what a lot of coaching programs end up being. You just don't want to do that. You need methodologies that resonate with the top pressing issues that clients are facing. And again, in situations like this, I've seen it make the difference. These are high-stakes conversations. Again, this is just one of dozens of different methodologies that you should be ready for with a client. The last thing I want to talk about are marketing requirements for success given how the market has changed, and then I'll take questions. Okay, there's 3 things you need. 1, I'm going to assume you have some idea of a target market. You need a compelling marketing message. If you look at most coach websites, they're horrible. Okay, they're all about the coach. They don't work. All they do is say, here's my name, here's the leadership coaching we do, and that's it. You need a marketing message that tells your market about the fact that you understand their problems, you empathize with them, you know that there's a better way, and that you have a unique edge. You have a way to help them with their problems. With the Center for Executive Coaching, one of the things that sets us apart is I personally will work with you to craft your marketing message. No one else does that. We have a template that helps you as well, and just a bunch of resources to help you with that. You need a message that's compelling. You can't just say, hi, my name is Joe Smith. I am a leadership coach. You know that leadership is very important. You know that many employees are not engaged. I can help you. Please give me a call for a free consultation. Doesn't work. Not anymore. 2, you need ways to get visible in the market. There's more coaches out there, but there's also more doors that are open. So there's great opportunity if you do the right thing. We have a framework to do that. You can see it here. The good news is it doesn't cost a lot to get visible. The R stands for referrals that you see here. We teach you the conversations to have to get referrals. It's not just saying, hey, if you know anybody who might want to use my services, please have them call me. There's I get these emails from a coach. I don't know how he got my email address, but he's always sending out these horrible emails saying, hey, if you know anybody who could use me as a coach, please send them my way. It's awful. I delete every one of them. I don't say unsubscribe because I get so much humor out of his horrible emails. I use them as bad examples, and yet many coaches do that. There's an actual way to get referrals that works, and so we practice that in the program. EM stands for educational marketing. What I'm doing right now is considered educational marketing, right? It's giving a webinar to you. I'm not going to make a heavy pitch about anything. I'm just educating you, and in the hopes that if you're interested, you'll contact me. That's it. That's the pitch. It's educational marketing. Okay? There's many ways to do it. Articles, blogs, speeches, etc. You just want to establish yourself as an expert. L stands for leadership. You want to be a leader in at least one association where you're in touch with your target market. You don't want to dabble. You don't want to be at low-level things. You don't want to just join stuff to join stuff. Find one quality place where you can get on the board or be on a committee where you can show people what you can do. Some attorneys get all their clients by being on 1 or 2 boards of nonprofits. That's it. Leadership. And OL stands for online. There's all sorts of mystique about online stuff. It's really pretty simple, right? You don't need much. Maybe a blog. You don't have to spend a lot on a website, but you can spend a little. And, frankly, LinkedIn, you can get all the clients and leads you need from LinkedIn if you do it right, and it's free. So it's not that complicated. Getting visible is not that complicated, especially if you have a good marketing message. And finally, and most importantly, you need results-driven solutions. That's part of your marketing. Okay? And that's what, that influence piece that I took you through is one sliver of one of them. You need solutions so that you can show your clients that you have substance. All right? You don't go to a knee surgeon who says, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions in the hopes that you'll have insights that will help me to operate on your knee. Okay? You expect your knee surgeon to have a methodology to fix your knee. And now it's the same with coaching. You would expect your coach to have a fast, effective process to solve a pressing problem with you. Not the answer, but a framework. The 20% of conversations to have that has 80% of the impact. And that's what we give you at the Center for Executive Coaching. So again, you need a compelling marketing message, a way to get visible, that low cost, high impact. Again, the R being referrals, the L being leadership, OL being online, EM being educational marketing. And you need substance. Okay? So that's what I have for you. I hope I've told you 6 ways that the market isn't, 3 ways the market's gotten broader, 3 ways the market's gotten more competitive, what that means today, right? There's two models. There's the treadmill model, which I hope you won't have to tolerate for long. And then there's what I would say is the exciting model, the solution provider, trusted advisor model. Gave you a coaching pop quiz to see if you can keep clients for 3 years or more, if you have enough substance. Also a marketing pop quiz to see if you're the go-to expert. Showed you a coaching methodology, sliver of one. Talked about the 3 marketing requirements. And look, the next steps are these. If you're interested in a coach training program, and this is the time, and you're interested in our toolkits. By the way, if you're a seasoned coach, we offer just the toolkits. I'd be delighted to schedule a one-on-one to confirm fit. Okay, there's plenty of options depending on your needs. And there's our email address. All right, let me see. I think you can see our email address there. Let me take questions, and then we will wrap up. Again, I thank you for your time. Looks like we went exactly 1 hour. What questions do you have about coaching, the coaching market, anything at all? And again, thank you. So yeah, can I talk about the toolkit for seasoned coaches? Yeah, if you go to centerforexecutivecoaching.com and click for seasoned coaches, you'll see the toolkit. It's basically 27 toolkits. They're in Word format, Excel format, and they cover typically the most pressing problems that executives face, right? And they walk you through a methodology to coach them on those. Things like, how do I engage my team? How do I plan strategy? How do I resolve a conflict? How do I create a high-performance culture? The whole list of them is on the website. So take a look for that. And I'd be happy to talk to you about it. It's a whole toolkit. It's incredible. There's a business coaching toolkit that's part of it. It's about leadership presence. There's one. How to manage up. It's really nice. You can use it as a leadership academy. I mean, there's tons of things you can do with it. If you want to watch the previous webinar on coaching niches, that's on our blog. So go to the website, click articles, and you'll see that. All right. Good. Pricing models. One of you is asking about pricing models. Yeah, my insight is this. Do not charge by the hour. Okay, the most successful coaches think of pricing, pricing on value and pricing like consultants do. Price it like a project. Okay, so you want a start and an end. You're solving a problem. Okay, so if you charge by the hour, you're a commodity. You want to scope your project out by understanding the problem you're solving, understand the value of that problem by asking great questions. And again, we teach you this in the Center for Executive Coaching. And scope it out as a project based on partly on the value and partly on what the market will bear. That's how you want to price. Pricing is all over the place. And in previous presentations, I've talked about this. So I'm not going to get too much into it. My book, Guerrilla Marketing for Coaches, of which I'll get 50-cent royalty, so it's not like I'm pushing it too hard, goes into this a little bit more. Alan Weiss wrote a book called $1 Million Consulting. You can read more on it from him. He has another one called Value-Based Pricing, which will do it. You can also read Spin Selling by Neil Rackham, which is a very nice book that gets into how to ask great questions about that. How can you help a person just completing ICF training to get in the marketplace and get clients? Well, I would say get a time machine, and you should have joined the Center for Executive Coaching because that's what we cover. Yeah, and that's the problem with ICF training, right? They talk about the core competencies. Well, why not the core competency of how to get clients? How the heck are you supposed to practice the core competencies if they don't teach you how to get clients in these programs? It drives me crazy, right? But we do offer a program on marketing. If you want, it's a tough I like it when our own members do it because it's hard for me to offer that program if the coach doesn't have substance. So it's a little tricky. But I can. We do have a program that teaches marketing for coaches. If you go on, and we're going to start it right after the new year. So take a look at it and see if it's interesting. Okay. Yeah, my book, I have a bunch of books, but one is Guerrilla Marketing for Coaches, so that's good. All right, good. Any other questions that I can answer? And feel free to email me, by the way.